Welcome, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, February 25th. This is the general meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're also going to end with a public hearing of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're starting a little bit late tonight, but we'll be fine. We'll catch up because you guys are all going to be quick. First item on the agenda is public comment on matters unrelated to those on the agenda. We instituted this earlier this year. Anyone have public comment on anything in general? You're welcome to speak. If not, we'll move on. Looks like we're moving on. Next item on the agenda, informal discussion regarding Oxford School, 395 Mansfield Avenue. Tonight we are presenting who? Jeremy?
It's going to be Amy Samuelson from SLAM. They're the architects and group that's working on the various plans. There's other representatives from the Oxbridge Building Committee here, Kit Coons, Randy Gilardo, and others who are in the back.
Diane Boston.
Diane's here, sure. So Amy's going to start out, tell us a little bit about the concepts, the ideas. The purpose of tonight is to get feedback from the commission. They're going to be submitting their formal application to the Planning and Zoning Commission in a couple weeks and expect to have a public hearing on this plan late April sometime.
Please, welcome.
Thank
Introduce
you.
yourself. And I have a threshold question. Can the camera see that okay? Can you
Yes.
see that? Good.
And should I go to the podium?
Please,
Okay.
you're allowed to grab, I think, the microphone that's got the wire on it. Yep. And walk around with that one. That's connected to our court reporter.
Okay.
And we also have a pointer up there if
Oh,
you'd like
thank
to
you.
use that as well.
Okay.
Is the other microphone from TV 79 or is that
No, the other
Yes.
one is 79.
the other one? Is
They
okay.
can walk around.
I'm going to stay here for a minute.
Welcome.
Cool.
I'm Amy Samuelson, as Jeremy introduced. I'm from the SLAM Collaborative. SLAM is the architect, and we are also structural engineers, landscape architects, and interior designers, designing the new Oxbridge School. With me tonight is Will Walter. I'm going to have him stand up. But Will is from Benesh and Associates, and they are the civil engineer. So as we move forward with the presentation, you might have some questions for him on stormwater management, site utilities, that kind of thing. But I brought, I have with me the existing site plan, and this is something you might be familiar with. Oxbridge sits on a hillside, and it steps down the hill. So the building is actually in 3 separate tiers. There's a ramp connecting each of the tiers here, and there is one access point from the road. There are one parking lot essentially divided into 2 areas. The bus drop-off is this smaller loop, ironically, and the longer loop with more parking serves as parent drop-off and also all of the faculty, visitor, staff-owned parking. Oxbridge will remain up and running while this other building is being constructed. This is a site plan of the new building. The footprint primarily takes the southern portion of the property in order to avoid the existing building, and we'll be able to construct all of this portion and most of this portion without impacting the existing school. We are going to do a separate first phase that I think you've already been introduced to, which is the enabling phase. That's going to allow 2 sections of the existing building to be abated and demolished over the summer so that it makes room for this assembly wing of the new building.
Can I ask you a threshold question on this one?
Sure.
This design that you're going to show us tonight, you guys always seem to talk about percentages in terms of where it's located and design, not the super specs. What percentage are you guys?
You mean to say how far along in the design process?
Correct, for where it's being sited.
I think we're pretty married to this site. There's
Okay.
not going to be a change.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Yes. And to your point, we are about halfway through, or a little more than halfway through, the design development phase, which is the second of 3 documentation phases for the design team. So we're feeling like the building is sited and the plan itself has settled into place. So we're confident that this is the way it's going to go.
Great, thank you.
Like this existing building, the new building will have 2 levels that settle into the terrain. As the grade slopes down, the main level, which is represented by this footprint, actually has this portion drop about 6 feet in elevation, with a ramp in the building that connects from the main lobby and administrative areas down a ramp to access the gymnasium, cafeteria, part of the library, and music suite. These are all areas that can also be accessed through a second main entrance to the school, especially at off hours. But primarily the main entrance to the school will be up here. And we anticipate that this front loop is all parent drop-off, and that buses will be the only thing allowed to come down this lane during the morning drop-off and the afternoon pickup hours. That the buses will be in this loop, and this loop, it holds 8 buses stacked, but the way that the school operates, in the morning, buses just come in sort of 1, 2 at a time as they arrive from their pickup schedule, and they drop off. There's not really any queuing that takes place. In the afternoon, 4 buses at a time will queue. And so this loop will allow for 8 buses, but the way that the school dismisses students, they dismiss in groups of 4 buses currently. Parent drop-off will be the loop up front, and that will have plenty of room for stacking as well. And so do you have any questions on the site traffic or circulation?
You talked about the number of buses that could queue. How about the number of cars that can queue?
Off the top of my head, I don't know how many can queue from end to end, but we anticipate that only 4 spaces will be marked, that the school allows for 4 student drop-off and pick-up car spaces, so that cars get into that space, and then they're allowed to open and close their door, and then they move on. Yes?
Have you been to the school at drop-off or pickup?
I have been there a number of times at pickup time, yes.
At drop-off?
I have not been there at
And you've been there at pickup, and
yes.
there's only been 4 cars allowed?
No, ma'am. There will be a stack of cars,
How
but
far
only
does that stack go out?
today.
Any day?
So in the existing plan,
Yeah.
cars are stacked all along here.
And how far do they
Parents
go out?
also.
They go out further than that.
Okay.
No, it does.
That's-
You've been there, you said.
I have, but I'm not sure what, that's not what we're
I'm
addressing
talking
tonight.
about addressing the traffic issue.
Understood.
Okay.
So, what we've done
It
is
goes
we've
out
made
the
it
street, it goes around. You know where it goes.
Okay, I didn't
No,
want to
have you
interrupt you.
been there?
Yes, ma'am, I have been there, yes. I've been at
cars go
meetings
out?
in the afternoon, I've been stuck in my car here waiting for
Exactly.
people to
That's
get
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I understand, but that happens at every school. If you're parked in the middle of the parent drop-off or parent pickup lane,
It goes
or
out to the street.
in the bus drop-off or bus drop-off lane, you would not expect to be able to then pull out during that time.
I'm
Okay,
talking
so I
about going
think-
out to the street.
Well, let me help. So
Okay.
I think, so let's talk comparison.
Yeah.
So the loop, what length is it currently? And what length is it going to be, so that we can talk, we need to compare apples to apples.
Unfortunately, we cannot compare exactly apples to apples,
Right.
because the current situation combines buses and cars all at the top. And so when there are buses here, cars do slip by, and I have not been given a count, but I can find out the count of cars that are there.
Yeah, that would be good.
But I can tell you the number of cars that we can expect here.
Okay, let me interrupt 1 second.
Mhm.
They are doing a traffic study, so we haven't seen that yet.
What will that entail? Will that
Or
entail the
until
parking
whatever,
lot?
whatever we tell them it will entail.
Okay.
So let's
It
kind of let
does.
her make her presentation, and
So
then
this is
we'll.
an informal discussion, correct?
Right, but let's see what
And
her.
I actually have firsthand knowledge, and I asked her if she's been there for drop-off and pickup, which is what she was talking about.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay?
Okay, so, correct, there is a traffic study being done. The building
What
committee
will
has
that
hired.
entail?
The building committee has hired the traffic inspection to be done separately. The report is not finalized yet, but we'll be receiving that, from what I understand, next week. And so we'll have that in hand. Right now, there is only the one, and there will only remain one curb cut for this school. So there's not really any room there to change that.
Are these two maps to scale?
Yes,
I've been dropping kids off and picking kids up there for over 40 years.
Mhm.
Then I got all my children and all my grandchildren went there.
great.
It appears that the existing, I can't see well enough to know how many parking places there are. I'm not talking along the curb, I'm talking about in the middle where you get
Yes.
caught sometimes.
Mhm.
But just from this view, it appears that there are fewer parking places in the new design.
Actually, no, I have the parking count with me.
We can come back to this when you do the parking study. I think that's something I'd like to know.
There's not a parking is not a part of the traffic study, so I'm happy to cover that tonight. I brought the parking statistics. In the existing parking lot, there are 87 standard spaces and 4 accessible spaces
Can I just
for a
stop
total
you?
of 91.
Are you talking about that one parking lot and not where the teachers park by the trees and back in the unauthorized parking all along the neighbors' yards?
I'm talking about,
Which lot are you talking about?
correct, I am talking about
The existing?
signed parking,
So just where you have it marked on the map,
correct.
but that is not currently where actual parking occurs.
A lot of parking does occur here.
And where
Some
parking also
some people
occurs
park-
by the bus loop and next to, yes,
Those are included in my count,
they are. And what
Yes.
about next to the school?
right here.
And no, over here, yep, over there, and back by there. Yep,
Okay,
did you
So-
count those?
no, they're not
Okay.
marked.
But
I'm
that
sorry.
is in reality where parking occurs.
Okay,
No, I know that for a fact.
I'm not disagreeing with you. That's fine.
Have you gone to the school and counted?
Okay,
I'm
I'm gonna
asking,
give you the statistics for
have
the
you
new
gone to
parking
the school
lot.
and counted?
I don't think I need to because the new parking lot is going to accommodate 120
How can we do a
cars.
comparison if we don't know what's currently being utilized for parking?
I'm comparing the marked spaces in the existing with the marked spaces in the new.
Okay.
And there will be plenty of other spaces in the new as well where you can parallel park along the side of the driveway in a similar manner to how they do today. They, if
Fire
necessary,
lanes, they park everywhere.
and that's unfortunate, and that's what we're trying to rectify. So the new parking lots will have 60 standard spaces in the lower parking lot.
Where's the?
This one.
What's the low?
That's a lower lot.
Yeah. And there are 55 standard spaces in the upper. There are 3 handicap spaces in the upper, and there are 2 accessible spaces here in the lower. The total is 120 spaces. Those are marked spaces. In addition to the marked spaces, and there are far less than 120 people who work at the school, as you know. But if on a night when there is an event,
Or a day.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
How many employees are at the school? Now that you've brought it up, I need to
With
know.
ELP and Oxford,
correct,
counting both schools.
correct.
So how many employees are there? Sorry, I have no idea.
I do not have that with me.
Okay, so that would be a question I'd love to have answered since it was brought up. That'd be great.
We'll bring that the next time.
Thank you.
There will be parallel parking allowed all around here to an extent until the fire lane marking, and here. There's also availability for parking all along here, and we estimate that an additional 40 spaces are available in parallel parking areas for special events, for open house, for music performances, that sort of thing. And we've met with the police officers in town, and we understand how they generally are here at event time and parking people and allowing for only one lane in the driveway.
Okay, can I ask
Sure.
another quick, go back to the old school? How many parking spaces were at the old school?
87 plus 4 accessible spaces for a total of 91.
I thought you said 84.
87 parking, 4 accessible, 91 total.
Plus 4, okay. And then the number of classrooms in the new school versus the number of classrooms in the old school? And the population in the new school, population in the old school?
Yeah, that's good to know.
Dramatically different.
The population is remaining unchanged,
really?
except
That's not
for,
true.
okay, the elementary school population is remaining unchanged,
Okay,
and the ELP population will grow because they're going to consolidate ELP to this school. Currently, there are 2 ELP classrooms, and in the future, there will be 9.
Oh, so
Okay,
9
then-
times how many kids are in ELP?
16.
So, okay, so 9 times 16,
So-
54, 145, or
there's,
140, whatever.
there's 2, there's gonna be, now you get 7 more. Then what about the regular classrooms? Are they changing at all?
The number of
I mean,
classrooms,
isn't that how you guys do it? You go by classroom, you go by population?
we go by number of students.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what-
because number of students is what defines and gives you the number of teachers and faculty.
Okay, so
So
the
then-
population increase is 144. I'm just, right? Is that what you're saying?
You're going to 144, and you currently have 2 ELP classrooms in this building.
Correct, so you're
So
right,
that's
minus 2.
32.
Okay,
yeah.
fine.
Mhm.
So it's a population
it's-
increase of 112,
That's 7 times 16, right?
7 times 16, correct, so 112.
Right. ELP does have more than one teacher in the classroom typically.
So it's 2.
So I would, if you're counting that way, I
Plus
would
18.
count about 2.
Plus an 8,
Yes.
so it's like plus,
And most Oxford classrooms have an 8.
plus, so was it plus
Which
25?
they currently do.
Yes.
Okay, so plus 25 employees. But you'll find all this out to
I
give us
will
a...
bring that information
How did you
with
get
me.
to 25 employees with 7 new classrooms?
7 times
Hopefully.
3 is
It's-
21
Okay.
plus, what was it, 3?
Administration, there
And
will
then-
be
yeah.
1 director and 1 school psychologist
So-
with the ELP.
Okay.
So 20.
So just to go over mark spaces, and this is one data point. Now you have existing, you have 120 mark space, in the new building you have 120 mark spaces, the old building you have 87 mark spaces, right?
91.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 91. All right, it's not.
You're adding.
I'm subtracting. 91, so you're adding, so what's that?
29.
29 new spaces, and you're adding 21 new teachers,
Minimum.
25 new teachers.
Yes.
I'm estimating that, I don't want to
That's
go on
okay.
record
It's-
for
we're
that,
just
but
trying to get
I'll get that
general.
information
That
from
should
the
have
school.
been,
Okay.
So,
and all the.
as far as we've met with the building committee and the school administration, they're happy with this count, and they're expecting that this is an appropriate increase along with the building size. As you know, this is a very tight site, and we are trying to balance the amount of paved lot with the amount of play space available to students. And so, given the fact that the existing building needs to stay in place while the new building is being built, and that at the end of the project, we want to be able to have a generous play space for blacktop. There will be 3 playgrounds required as a part of the project. ELP has its own, K through 2 has one, and 3 through 5. Those are the required age groups for play. And so, understanding that during construction, that's what the site will look like, and you have a lot of, we want to keep this space available for play and for play in the end of the project as well.
Is that the current play space, or is that incorporating some of the wetland wooded area that is?
We are not impacting any of the wetlands.
No, I'm asking about the wooded area that is currently part of the deeded land, but is not currently used for play space.
Are you speaking about this open space
No.
that's wooded?
No. I'm
There's
talking
not-
about the current area behind the current school
Right.
that's used for play. Much of it
Mhm.
is wooded and is on a downslope and is not really accessible for play.
I
Why don't you pull this?
don't
one
want to
back there?
disagree with you, but
Pull that.
that's where I live.
Yeah.
And there's a fence at the
Okay.
end of the grass, there's a fence.
Okay, so they can't like.
They can't get down there, they don't go down
No,
there.
they don't. But I'm wondering if, because there's that wooded area, in front of the fence. You know where the fence is.
That area is going to be regraded. That's what they're going to be coming to the commission about.
So they are regrading it.
They're going to regrade
And
the
so
area.
that
One at a time,
playground.
please.
The area behind the school will be sloped. Then they're going to create a flat area for, I'll call it a soccer field, whatever kind of
So
field.
that field is part of that currently graded area that's all not currently being used.
Can someone humor me? Can you put your hand where right now the fence is that my
No,
brain?
move it forward.
Does anyone know? Sorry.
I know.
I have an aerial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
maybe you could.
No, but this shows a pretty
I
open
don't know who
space.
you are, so I.
Okay.
okay.
See, they're
Well,
not
for that.
showing.
If you hand it to her, if you hand it to her, or go to the mic, introduce yourself, and help us out. with
Do I
this.
need to introduce to hand this, or?
Just to talk.
So would you like me to present this?
No, just yes, however you want to do it, just show me where the fence is, because these guys, he lives there, she's been there a gajillion times, I've probably been there,
So
well,
You see, like there's a
Six.
difference
Six.
in the.
what I
wooded
was just
area.
handed is
And the regrading.
Google Earth, I think. And this image is also from Google Earth.
great.
So this is the tree line existing. We did not modify it. This is the existing school and the existing tree line.
What's this?
And the yellow line is the property bound.
The yellow line is the property line.
That's where the fence is.
No,
I don't know
it's-
if the existing fence is on the property line or not.
I will say it's,
Inside
you
of
look at this north, it's east of the tree line, because there's nothing,
Beyond
and
it.
they play up to the fence and they don't play in the trees.
Now, Amy, which I did mention to the commission, you're in the process of going to the various land use boards. Architecture Review Board, you've been to them informally.
That's correct.
Environmental Protection Commission, you went to them last month.
That's correct.
We expect a decision this month for work near the little pieces of wetlands in the top left corner and the bottom left corner. And we expect a decision from them next Wednesday. Things went well at the EPC relative to that.
They
The
did.
CBA is March 18th, planning and zoning will be late April.
Why did they have to go to ZBA?
For
The
ZBA, there are
coverage
two
during a
things.
portion of, there's going to be because they're building a school while they're running a school, so they're going over the 20% coverage limit for a time period of, let's call it about a year.
Got it, okay.
What's the space allocated for the play yards? The 3?
In acres?
Yep.
I'll have to get that for you. The plan is for a field that is the equivalent of a U10 soccer field, but it won't be, as far as size goes.
U10?
I'll do
What's that
10.
mean?
It's the size of the field that can fit here.
Equivalent to. No,
Right.
That's a question.
The reason why I'm saying equivalent to is because we're not marking the field for soccer. It's a open play space. But if you were to line the field, that's what would fit.
And that's in addition to the play gyms that will be going on there?
Correct.
So there's a U10 soccer field plus space for 3 play gyms.
Correct.
Where are the 3 play gyms?
There will be 2 here and a blacktop area and 1 here. The ELP wing is all in this front wing. It's a 1-story volume. It's closest to the main entry. It's really a nicely sited area specific for the young children, and they have direct access to their playground here.
So is that, it's tanned, is that gonna be blacktop, is that what you're saying?
No, that'll be like the rubber
Rubberized.
Okay.
cushion for under place.
And is that over on the other rubberized part, that's the same?
That's correct. This shape may change. We will have to
That's fine.
separate the two.
Right, because you see there's 2 playgrounds there, but you're just showing one.
I'm not showing any playgrounds right now. This is a representation of
Where
where,
will
the
the 2
playgrounds will
playgrounds
be. They will be here,
Where?
but in this area.
No, the thing that's inside the hexagon, or what's that, the polygon? What's that concrete space? No,
Oh, the courtyard?
no, keep going. Inside
On the
the,
left.
see, it looks like an upside, it looks like an A.
That's stairs to get down to the playing field? and a
Because the
slope.
grading.
It's a ramp.
It's
Yeah,
it's
that.
doing- Yeah,
What's
yeah,
it-
for the
what's
grading.
that thing?
How
One
far
at
is
a
the
time, please.
How far is the drop from the school to the playfields?
It's
15
about.
feet?
Can you give me a second?
Sure.
It is 14. If I counted correctly in this under pressure.
She's pretty good.
But it is.
Now, what's
What we've
inside that
done
little box?
is, as you know, the school now goes down and down and down. We've minimized the drop inside the school at this portion, but we've made a much more direct chute for kids going
Direct
from
chute for children.
for play to get from the gymnasium to the fields. It's meant to be very direct and clear. There is an alternative route which is graded to be, it's not a ramp, it's a sloped walk. So you're very easy to negotiate. So anyone coming from the parking lot can get down to the grade, and it's an accessible walk if they cannot or choose not to use the stairs.
So what's the inside there? Is that asphalt inside your wall? Yeah.
The walk itself
No,
will
right
be
where
concrete.
right where your finger was. That.
This
yes.
is grass.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, it's just a slope. It's a hill.
Got it. So if I'm on crutches, I'm walking down the path.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Well, yeah, or the stairs.
But, I mean, the population at Ox Ridge, I have children who are in wheelchair and have special needs, and I'm genuinely concerned about their ability, if that's, once they're out of ELP,
So
to go to the
again,
playfields.
this is providing a ramp from the school down to this level, and then there's a flat walk, there's a sloped walk, and then there's also an accessible route around the building to this point. At this point, it is graded, so it wouldn't be
A
accessible.
fifth grader who's special in a wheelchair is not going to go to the ELP playground at lunchtime.
They will not, that's
They will go
correct.
to the age-appropriate
That's
playfield.
correct.
And will the ramp be accessible and ADA compliant for them
Yes.
to be able to fully access and be with their schoolmates?
That's correct, and the
Okay,
playground
that's what I'm
itself
concerned
will
about.
also be accessible. I mean,
That's
this
what I'm
is,
concerned about.
this is all being designed to today's codes, to ADA accessibility, and to meet all
I
of the
just don't want children, because
parameters.
there's a high population at Ox Ridge. And
All of the students will be accommodated. Mhm. We
Yeah.
have an OTPT room as well in the
no, but
building.
outside
and
is
others.
OT&PT is when they're getting services alone.
I was just pointing out that we have
No, and that's admirable,
accommodations.
but
Mhm.
they should be integrated with their school mates
Absolutely.
and be able to
And the
access.
school will accommodate all of today's curriculum, whether it be indoors, outdoors, play, academics.
I just want to
The
make
school
sure
is
that the
fully
design with the
accessible.
grading allows for that.
I can't change the property.
No, I know, I
We
just want to make
have a
sure that.
sloped property, but I'm happy to accommodate all needs. And so that's why we've done a sloped walk instead of
feels
a ramp,
extreme.
which we think is more kind.
Can I ask a point of order? I'm entirely sympathetic with Kara's comments. but what are we doing here? I mean, what, you've got a building committee, you've got ADA and all these other rules, you've got this group that's been presumably responding to the building committees,
For over a year.
you know, all this. So,
When it gets to the commission, you're right. The
What
commission,
does the commission
what does
do?
the commission, you're gonna look at two items. One is the filling and regrading,
okay,
and related to that is stormwater and drainage.
right,
Because there's a lot of regrading, which is near the
Understood.
property lines or in the back, having to get the slope site to work and accommodate the drainage, especially during this intermediate period where there's a lot of building, not a lot of green space. You're also gonna be looking at it from a site plan perspective, making sure that what they draw up complies with height and setbacks and anything that's not waived by the ZBA. They're going to be incorporating the municipal use zone, so you'll have to make specific findings relative to the MU zone and what that allows for this.
Traffic study.
And
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 parking.
right.
That's,
the property's not in the flood zone, it's not in the coastal area, so those are out of the picture for this. So it would be site plan and regrading with a look at the MU zone and making those specific findings under regrading, section 850, site plan, section 1020, and the MU zone, section 420. We passed those along to the architect and the building committee months ago, so they know what topics you'd be looking at and what findings you will need to be make based upon the public hearing in April.
okay, the reason and again, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to beat up Karen,
No, it's fine.
but whether the kids have a ramp or a set of stairs or whatever, that's not our, at least as I understand it, that we're leaving that
It's
to the
informal discussion, and
to the
so,
building
except the
committee.
great.
I mean, I'm sure they won't ignore what we're talking about, but
but they asked to come here informally to, like,
I mean, I'm happy to defend our plan. We are complying with all accessibility
and that's why, that's
needs.
what my concern is, as long as
But-
they're complying with,
I'm also,
But
because I don't have insight to what ZBA has seen, or the Architectural Review Board, or other boards. At this point, they asked to come in for an informal meeting. We have not seen those approvals, and don't have any insight into, I haven't seen a site plan. So, when you ask to come in for informal discussion, to know what we're concerned about, without us having the benefit and the insight of what other boards have already discussed with you and approved, I'm gonna ask you what I'm concerned about. If I have the benefit of those other boards' approvals and already passing on it, I'm gonna shut my mouth. But I haven't had that.
I think your point's well taken about the parking. There's no set rule in what the parking requirement is. But if the population, if they add, for argument's sake, if they add 25 teachers and only 20 parking spaces, you know, that's
If
a
they
full
add it,
parking.
I mean, that's what happened.
Understood.
So,
You know, that's why I'm asking population relative
Yeah,
to
no, I-
that. Just ratios there.
So a question, so for traffic, so I know on the street, like the turning, right, we're gonna,
Right.
but will it take into account, you know, like when the nature center came, they talked about, and they were clocking it, they were so diligent about, like, we had 6 cars, and this is when they had, and this is where the holdup was, and
If I recall, they
so
are.
once we're into the property, do they really present us with that data that says there was 12 cars around the loop, and the loop is, you know, X amount of feet, and without, you know, this amount of feet, there's only gonna be 7 there, which means there's gonna be 4 more backed up onto the Mansfield.
That's
you know
my
what I'm saying?
concern.
Yeah.
That's what we traded
Because I
emails
feel
this
like they
morning.
don't actually give us that data inside the
I'm
private
sure they can
property.
track
I
that
would
down.
love that to be tracked, because I think that, for me, that's my concern is, if you tell me the math, and I can figure it out, if there's that much in the loop, because Mansfield is gonna be a hot mess.
Right.
If
And
It
that's-
there's-
is, and I think as ELP gets larger, they will need to continue to do a staggering, and which they already do, but similar to Nature Center, I mean, this is a larger operation, but they already stagger it. But when special events occur, there is an issue.
so I can address the timing, if that would be
It's
helpful.
staggered.
The school is dropped off about, for the elementary school. The drop-off takes place about 45 minutes or half an hour before the ELP. ELP students don't get dropped off until 9 o'clock, and that program runs until 1 p.m. And ELP is only a 4-day-a-week, so Monday to Thursday. So their schedule is pick up and drop off is at a different time than the elementary school, and then it's also one less day.
And what happens when it's a half day? I just don't know, sorry.
I don't know that. Yeah, I'll have to find that out.
Then it's everyone
What
leaving.
should be noted is that Oxbridge also is the late start time, so the pickup times for kids on bus, like the pickup time and drop-off time it's not quite 45 minutes.
Okay, I'll look into
What's the start
it.
time? What's the start time of ELP?
9 is when they accept students.
And the start time of Oxbridge is 9. Yes, it is.
So it might be 9:30
They
for.
accept students at 8:40. The
Okay,
start time is 9.
so
they're
I may
accepting
have been
the
incorrect
start
about
time,
ELP.
but
One
I'm
at a time,
But
please.
that's important, because like for traffic and when there's gonna be tight traffic loops, knowing,
I understand that the importance, and
especially
it
with
has
the
been
increased
asked
size
and
of
answered
ELP.
again by the traffic.
Right,
You know, I'm not here to represent,
No, we're just asking- we're just telling you
Ty
what
and
we're
Bond is
concerned
doing
about.
the traffic study.
Increased numbers, start times, drop-off times.
That will all be in the traffic report.
Let me ask you a question.
And half days.
Relative to the traffic report, if Time Bond comes up with
And dismissals.
suggestions
Mhm.
and changes, can you accommodate it?
We will have to.
Because that's why I asked you at the beginning, how married are you to this?
Yeah, well, I don't think the building is going to move, but we can certainly accommodate more parking if it's required by the traffic commission.
Oh,
Well,
We
parking.
can regrade this area and extend this parking lot. We'd rather not, because we want to maintain as much open space as we can for the students.
So actually, that was,
Yeah.
if you go back to the original plan a second, I don't want to say how long ago, but once upon a time, when my kids were at Oxford, and I'm not saying I personally did this, but there was a lot of parking going on in that play area,
oh, a ton.
you know,
All the time.
afterwards. So even if you extend, if
Little
you
square.
say the bottom square too. So we haven't even talked about that area as being more that you,
To this day.
okay, so it still happens.
That
So I
has been
think that-
discussed as well.
Yeah, so clearly if you have the ability to let parking go into that other where the play area is meant to be, in special events, I don't see how you can avoid it.
You talk about the one that's all the way to the left, or the one that's all the way
It's
to
the only
the
one,
left?
that's the only one left. That area
park
where
there.
she just pointed,
Parkway.
People park on it.
people
There's
park
The
on it.
entire area is parking.
That square, near where your hand was,
Right
there's a little
here.
basketball
No,
hoop
the
there.
entire green
and they
area
park.
is
Yeah,
full of
but
cars.
it just keeps going.
No, that was our softball field when I coached Casey.
Right,
Yeah,
but
if
it's,
you go
parent- but
park
it's,
during
One
parent-
at a time, please.
it's heavily utilized as a parking area
Okay.
during events.
This is what, I mean,
It's good.
looking at both plans, it looks like you got less grass, field space. I mean, a lot less, and that's why the population of the school is
And
going
the
up.
population's growing.
Is that within regulations or whatever?
I don't know, Tokenique School should be a shining
Yes.
example of what needs to be pivoted on as a parent of Tokenique and a previous parent of Royal. And play space and parking, definitely, because Tokenique was the most recently built, and as I'm sure that study was done well, and I'll tell you that there's parking and there's play space problems there, having kids there. And coming from Royal, where my kids are like, the playground was awesome, it was so great, and they don't feel the same way. So just as feedback, like to
Thank you.
compare,
Yeah,
like,
we'll look at what they have at those schools relative to the number of faculty and staff and students.
Because if Time Bond says you need more parking, you need longer queuing lines for whatever to get the traffic off of Mansfield.
yeah, that's true.
That's what we'll work to do, absolutely. That's why we're working in conjunction with them.
Right.
We haven't gotten the study yet.
Right. Okay. What else?
That, we talked about traffic analysis, the potential use of the MU zone. We will be utilizing the setback, relaxed setbacks requirements from the MU zone here.
There's no
And-
houses down there, right?
Correct,
That's
this is
reserved.
this is
This is an air
open
photo,
space.
so what you see is.
No,
what's
I
Right.
got it.
And
Is that
grading and
this-
stormwater is the only other thing on the list.
Is that the walkthrough area from, if you come from Oxford Lane and walk through, like, where is that, Grieve?
Okay, it's on the
West.
western south
Okay.
corner of the property. Almost right up,
Right.
up
Those are,
to the right. Now, to the corner,
No.
the lower corner. No,
Yeah,
I'm
where-
sorry. On the left side of the board,
Okay,
that corner, that yellow
Yeah,
corner,
where is that?
property line. That's my property line.
there's,
Okay, but where is
it's
that?
across the street from Highland Farm.
Oh, that's what I thought, that
There's
walkway.
three houses.
That walkway.
A little shared driveway type
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
There's
Okay.
open space behind those houses.
Yes.
That is that open space.
Okay, got it.
So that's privately owned. Town doesn't own it, the land trust doesn't own it, just privately owned open space. It's required to be open space.
Yeah, it can't be developed.
It can't be developed.
Can't be developed.
Who owns it?
It was when
Privately owned
Ginter
It's
bought
privately
that
owned.
land and subdivided it,
Privately
and they
owned.
had to put that aside.
Go for the subdivision?
Yeah.
Okay, the site plan and regrading stuff, that's gonna be the other diagram you already brought up. You know, you have a civil engineer that figured out all the gradings and things and whatnot. You know, we can look at that when it comes down. The traffic study to us is important. Relative to height of the building and the change between today and tomorrow, can you just go over that real quick?
sure. So it's a one-story building, as is the current condition at this area. There's a two-story space here, but it steps down. So the main level is on the first floor, we'll call it a main level, is at grade, and then it goes down, and there are 2 stories in this area
So
for
it's
the
underneath.
elementary school.
So it's
So it's
underneath.
3
Open to
stories, but it feels like,
No, ma'am, it's a 2-story building. It's 1 main level and a 2nd floor underneath here.
So it's a main level and a lower level.
Correct.
And then in the back,
In
that's
this
the
area,
gymnasium?
this is the gymnasium and the cafeteria, so these are higher spaces. But their finished floor level is 6 feet below the level here. This is not a grade, this is a grade change, but not an building story, because it's connected by a ramp. But that allowed the gymnasium, which is the tallest portion of the school, to sink into the ground 6 feet from this level. So it's about a 35-foot tall gymnasium outside, and I'm including the parapet that hides the mechanical systems. So the very tallest portion of that wall, and that is again 6 feet below here. So if the gymnasium were up here, it would be 6 feet higher than where it is today.
So is the roof all in the same plane?
No,
Or is the roof stepped?
this, actually, yes, the roof
The roof's
is
all,
all the same plane except for at the gymnasium and cafeteria, which are higher.
And
The
the
gymnasium
pods?
being the highest.
the 2 academic pods are not higher?
No, the
Academic
academic pods.
pods, not ELP.
These are the academic
But
pods.
they're 2 stories higher.
No, they go
Oh, 'cause of
down.
the
They're
grading.
down, they're
That's
down.
And so
right.
like the kids are in the,
Basement.
They're in a
Oh,
fully
that's awful.
daylit basement. There's not
I'm
it's not a
sorry,
basement
that's
field.
awful.
The courtyard steps down 14 feet and allows natural light in on this side. And this is
Wait,
all at
wait,
grade in the back.
Wait,
It's 100% like a regular story.
So the roof's,
The same windows in all classrooms.
the main U is on the same roof plane, and then
Yes.
the gymnasium whatnot goes up 3 feet or 6 feet?
No, the gymnasium goes up about 15 feet from there, yes. The
So the-
1 story is 14 feet, height of the building about 17 feet, and then the gymnasium height will be in the 30s, 35.
With 29
Okay.
really, right?
So the-
Right, 6 below.
So the back of the building is 15 feet higher than the front of the building?
No, just the gymnasium, just
Right,
the
right.
gymnasium.
I'm calling the gymnasium.
It's the
something
But the gymnasium is only a square right here. It is not this whole area.
Ah, okay.
Right.
Where's
There's
Can I-
music rooms, there's the library, and
I want to go back to the question I asked. I'm sorry, but we've spent now almost an hour. And we're talking about a lot of things that are well-intended and thought-out comments, but they got nothing to do with planning and zoning.
But the height does.
Regrading
That's
those.
why I asked the
Height
height.
does.
That's why I asked the height.
So it's more
That's
than
all.
2 stories.
Because that's on
the
our.
MU zone does allow for up to 40 feet and
Yeah.
3
And they're over
stories.
30,
We won't be
yeah.
using the 3 stories.
So it's a one,
It's
to
like-
me, it's a 1-story in the back that's 35 feet.
It's less than.
Yeah, and I've looked at these, and we've had a number of these, you know, on one subject or another, as a way for the commission to get a jump on what's coming at us,
Right.
and also for us to give the applicant some early guidance as to stuff we like or we don't like. And I grant you the height of the building is set by the MU zone, and we've got to make sure that
Right.
it adheres to it. But whether this part of the building is a basement or is not us.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I mean, and I think I'm sorry, Kara, but I think we're wasting time talking
I'm not wasting time. They asked for informal conversation and like
about,
without
but
getting.
this is for us. It's not this is
But
not
then
a
you
public
have
meeting
to give us
for
some plans
all
ahead
and
of time.
sundry to
You- one
complain
at a
about
time.
the design of the school.
Maybe
Okay. So the next
giving
thing,
some documents ahead of time would have alleviated this.
so the next thing on your list is site planning and grading. We talked about that. You brought your
Stormwater.
engineer here. Might as well let him say hi. Give his money's worth.
I bet you'd like that.
The other,
I don't think so.
and the other thing is, and you, of your team, a professional team, it's you two different firms?
Yes.
That's
And that's it.
correct.
All right, so there's no other, okay.
Is it?
Just if you could say your,
Sure, for the
say your
record,
name and, from the record.
for the record, Will Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Benish and Company. We'll go back to the, all right, this is the existing conditions. I'll try to make this brief. Everybody is aware of how the site slopes. We've got water coming down off the road and off this little subdivision up top up here.
Okay.
Actually, no, this is existing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
existing.
Okay. Basically, water's flowing down east to west, down to a small pocket of wetlands down there on the western side. The pipes currently are undersized. They come from both directions, and they both outlet down there. There's a hill, kind of where that, the woods are over there, is where the pocket of wetlands is. There's 2 pipes that stick out, if you've been out there. There's 2 pipes that stick out 3-4 feet above the ground. There's washout going on, so it's not a good situation right now. So there's always 2 things that we look for in our stormwater design. One is we have to look at the hydrology, which is detaining the peak flow, meaning under the design storms, what is our maximum flow rate that's going down there right now? And then we have to not exceed that after we regrade and repurpose the entire site. That's number one. The second thing is the stormwater, especially the stormwater that comes off of the parking lots, because that's where mainly the pollution is found, the heavy metals, things like that from the vehicular traffic. We have to take that stormwater for the very small flows and treat it for, they call it treating for stormwater quality, and that's per DEP regulations. So for the peak flow, the town of Darien has a, the regulations basically say that when you look at your existing site, you have to assume the entire site is meadow, essentially. So we're taking an existing built site and we're repurposing it, and the difference in impervious area is very small, actually. Typically, that wouldn't require detention, but because we have to assume the existing site is all meadow and grass, and now we're adding, let's bring the proposed up, Amy. Now you can see all the impervious we're essentially adding to a virgin site. So we do have to add a significant amount of storage volume in a form of detention. We have 2 choices for detention. We can go above ground or we can go underground. We prefer to go above ground. It's less costly, it's easier to maintain. However, you can see the only place we can go above ground would be to take away that feel for the kids. Obviously, we don't want to do that.
So what above ground, you're talking about rain garden?
Fire swales.
Really, we're talking about a large detention basin is what we're talking
Oh,
about.
so, oh, really?
Pond.
They can't do that.
Yeah, we don't have the room to do that here, as you can obviously see. So what we're doing is we're going to put an underground system down here. All right, that's going to be a 4.5 foot concrete vault. We were going to do 2 systems, one there and one there, but we had test pits recently done out there, and what we found is, thankfully, there's no groundwater down 9-10 feet over here. But oddly enough, there is groundwater about 3 feet up here, so we can't put anything underground up there. So we had to make this one a little larger down here. So we're in the process of revising those computations, and those will be done relatively soon. Anyway, the water's going to come down, going to get detained in here, and then it's going to get slowly released and out into the wetlands, and there's a stream. We're going to be decreasing the peak flow significantly because of the regulations. We're also looking at a
That was fuzzy, Andre.
That's Jim's house.
Do you,
Mr.
just for, and this is a personal question for which I apologize, but if I could be indulged just for 30 seconds. You mentioned the I'll call it the nasty water coming off the parking lot.
Heavy metals.
Heavy
Jim.
metals.
Heavy
and
metals.
stuff. When you do one of these exercises, do you segregate that flow from the other flow?
We can't in this situation. We can't do it.
There's no
But what we are doing is, so I'm done talking about hydrology, which is the peak flow. One other piece with hydrology, the regulations require us to look at the entire watershed and look at the most downstream point, which is way down that way, and basically model it such that we're looking at the entire area as it is right now, and then we're looking at the entire area with our new development, just to make sure we're not going to wash out any streams down there. And we've done that analysis, and we're going to be complying with the regulations. So that's hydrology, that's peak flow. The next thing we're looking at is water quality, and we're treating the stormwater. Not only do we have...
I'm just going to have one quick question before we move on. With the underground system that you're considering putting in that area, hypothetically, if a bunch of parents decide to park in that field, is the weight of that...
Is that really hypothetical?
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Might happen, you know?
Yeah, we are putting a concrete vault system, and it can withstand a crane on top of it, so it's going to be fine.
That's what,
Good question.
How much does the crane weigh?
Stop and Shop.
Stop
and Shop.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah, no, I
Well,
just threw that in. I mean, it's called what's H20 loaded, which is construction equipment.
Yeah.
It can certainly withstand cars on the top of it, absolutely.
So, I'm sorry, so that's great. So I would just love to know how many cars that is and what that looks like, because if people are driving on it, that should not be on any of our heads. Like, if you tell me it can withstand 20 cars and it can only fit 5,
It can
Perfect.
withstand as many cars as you can park on top.
But yeah, we don't even know when it's going to be accessible by car. You could put
No, these things are designed. In fact, we were going to put one up in the parking lot up here to have cars constantly running over it and parking over it.
so there'll be something barricading cars from that area.
No, it's either
I'm
ramp.
just saying, we were going to put an underground system here and down there because there's high groundwater right here.
Again, it's all math, right? So there's a pressure that you probably know, because that's what you do. I just want to know, what's that pressure? How many cars put that pressure on it? You said it can handle as many cars
It
that
can
can...
handle as many cars as you
Yeah,
can
so,
possibly.
what
so
does
just
that
have that be
mean? I
part
just
of
want
the
the math.
presentation
That's
when,
it. Just-
when you're
Because
talking.
that's the math.
Just
That's
have
important.
the
Okay,
number
so-
there.
Now we're going to talk about treating the stormwater. So not only do we have the pavement here, we also have a portion of the road is flowing down, getting caught and coming down here. And there's a little subdivision up here.
Yep.
All this water is coming down here. So what we're doing is, over here, what we're doing is, we do have a couple of above ground rain gardens up top. You can see there's very little room for up there. We have one or two. We try to do as many of these things as we can. But in this case, we're just really pinched on site. So we're getting our water quality volume treated a little bit for the rain gardens. We're also going to have, as the water comes down this way into the system, we're having what's called a hydrodynamic separator, which is a swirl chamber. So the water comes in, is diverted through it. It basically takes out the grit, and the grit is what the heavy metals and the pollutants. So that's its first kind of removal of the pollutants, and then it comes down into the system. The system is going to be sitting on a bed of probably 2 feet of crushed stone. So we're going to get some percolation, some infiltration, And then as the water, during the heavier storms, as the water bubbles up, it's gonna go through outlet control structure with several orifices and come out down the wetlands. And down here, that existing condition that I described before, we're removing those pipes and we're putting a large concrete end wall. And the pipe's gonna come out at the bottom with a large riprap scour hole, so that as the water comes out, the energy is dissipated, and it's gonna prevent that scour that's going on under the existing conditions.
How many acres is our site? Is the whole site?
It's not on here.
What is it, 6.5, 7, something like that?
6.5 to 7. And do you know the
It's up
square
to top.
We're hearing 9 from our building committee chairperson.
It's a big spread.
Nine.
6.5 to
It's
9.
not 9 acres.
Okay, and then relative to the building square footage, how many square feet do you think the building is?
The building will
Could you
be,
use the microphone, please? Thank you.
the building will be about 105,000 square feet, but that's again over two stories.
Okay.
So the footprint for the first floor is probably in the 85,000 square foot
Okay.
range, but I'll bring the exact figures when I come back.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna just excuse myself if you don't have any more architectural questions. I'm supposed to be presenting at the Board of Ed meeting
Okay, good luck.
15 minutes ago. Thank you.
So relative to your study and your mathematics, when do you start to present that to the peer reviewer? When you're
He's already
done?
working, we've hired Craig Flaherty.
Right, I knew that.
Wait,
And Bill has already reached out to Craig to kind of talk back and forth about the site and what works and things like that. So you've already been working with Craig for a couple weeks now.
That's right.
Okay,
We
cool.
went through the regulations just to make sure that stormwater report will get submitted with a formal application, and then it'll get flipped to him at that time.
But when it's in its draft form, you're already talking to them anyway.
We already spoke with him, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
What's the timing on building this out?
Well, I think perhaps the building committee can.
The stormwater management system, just because there's, right, isn't part of this covered right now? And then, like, how do you access that whole
So-
area,
So there's gonna be the enabling phase this summer where 2 wings are coming down.
right?
The 2 wings are coming down this summer.
It's on your other plan.
So you're gonna use that side to
It's
get
on
in?
your site plan. Take care of those wings
So
sitting there.
there's 2 drainage systems. The larger drainage system comes down this way, and that one's right here. And then the field, and a little bit of drainage back here comes around and pops in right there. So this summer, these 2 wings are coming down. And then starting this fall, this is gonna get constructed down here while this is still in session.
those buildings are still in session.
And then what's gonna happen is, this stormwater system right here will remain. All right, this will remain while this is in session, this is getting built. And some of the water that comes down here, we're just flipping the pipes and some new pipes and we're rerouting around this way. Some of it we're bringing around like this.
So you're doing a temporary drainage system? A temporary one?
We're reusing the existing system with minor modifications.
Great.
And then the one we're doing down here, we're gonna construct the final drainage system so that we don't have to tear it up and do it again. So
I
that,
got you.
that'll be one of the first things that goes in when this goes in.
So that path gets the final right away, and then that, after those get demolished and whatever, okay.
That's correct.
Your word cut out for you.
Yeah, not an easy site, that's for sure.
Okay, any other concerns? Carrie, you okay for now? Larry, John?
Yeah.
And our quiet George?
Yes, isn't that a nice
Yeah,
chat?
that's very cool.
Also,
Would anybody from your committee or your team like to speak, present? Good, okay. Anything else we're missing, Chairman?
Nope, as I said, the plans will be submitted in mid-March. We'll schedule a hearing for the end of April.
Okay. Thank you, Oxford's Building Committee and professional engineers and architects and okay, I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is coastal site plan review number 335, flood damage prevention number 386, land filling and regrading number 444, Gosk,
Gosk, this is
Gosk.
28 Swiss Lane.
28 Slips Lane. Request to modify the previously approved plan to regrade the slope to the north of the proposed swimming pool and to form site development activities to stabilize the slope directly south of the driveway courtyard.
Landscape architects Bruce Eckerson and Keith Simpson are here, but I think what they've given you is pretty self-explanatory. This covers some work near the pool area. You may recall the commission's seen this a number of times. And this is basically for some work that was done close to Gorham's Pond and some regrading work by the pool. And that first had to go to EPC for work in an area where they had an easement. EPC, you have that approval letter in your packet, which is basically self-explanatory. They were pleased with the revised plans that you have. I think you have a planting plan and a grading plan.
Yep.
But basically, this includes a proposed rain garden, some changes in some areas near the pool and by the garage, which are all minor changes in the grading in this coastal area. So we wanted to run those by the commission. And, the landscape architects are here to answer any questions you may have. We agree with the EPC that these are pretty minor changes and not going to cause any coastal impacts.
Okay, and this is what we're talking about, right? I was out there today.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, any questions? On this thing? George?
No, I mean, I took a site
Done
visit.
here.
Jennifer? Mary? Kara?
No.
Okay. I think we're good, Jeremy. I was out there today, we're still working on a lot of stuff, the house is pretty much done. Okay,
Just need a motion to approve the revised plans.
entertain a motion to review the revised plans as submitted.
Motion to approve.
Jennifer, looking for a second. Jim Rand, all those in favor?
6-0.
6-0. Okay. All right, let's go keep the 35. 1 second. That's that. This. Okay. Next item on the agenda, we're going to start the public hearing. It's a continuation of our public hearing regarding coastal site plan review number 165A, flood damage prevention application number 173A, Lawrence Stevens, 14 Raymond Street. We already read this into the record once already.
Yes, I spoke with Mr. Hiltz, who represents the applicant. Mr. Hiltz is here tonight. I spoke to him right before the meeting. In light of the various emails you've seen over the past day or two relative to the 5 Mile River Commission, State of Connecticut DEP, and the Army Corps of Engineers, Mr. Hiltz is looking for additional time to continue the public hearing, which will allow him to try to work out whatever needs to be done with those agencies. So he's asked that the hearing be continued from tonight to Tuesday, March 24th at 8 p.m.
Are we going to
Town
review
Hall.
any of the stuff tonight?
No, I think it's all in limbo right now.
Excuse me, Jeremy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just, I noticed that there's a lot
Could you
of
come up to the
neighbors-
podium, please?
Sure.
Thank you, and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, John Hiltz for the applicant.
Thank you.
So, I noticed that there's a lot of the neighbors here, and they've sat very patiently through some other presentations. I think they may want to be able to speak tonight, so if you might want to afford
I
them
was
the
thinking the
opportunity.
same thing,
We should
instead
do
of an hour.
Well,
Sorry, thank you.
it's certainly up to the chairman. We did get, if someone sent an email, the commission has all the emails
Right.
relative to this. John, my understanding is, originally you got approval from the State of Connecticut DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, and the 5 Mile River Commission also sent a letter of support. And within the past week, the 5 Mile River Commission, use the word, recanted their approval into a subsequent letter, which was received, I think, this past Sunday or Monday.
Right.
The Army Corps-
Earlier this week.
Earlier this week.
February 23rd.
Right, the Army Corps of Engineers and the State of Connecticut DEP has asked you, in response to comments received from the neighbors and their representatives, to submit additional information to them to allow them to analyze it and make a determination on whether that approval is still valid or whether they're going to overturn, change their mind, require subsequent changes, new approvals, whatever it might be, and they need additional time to do that.
Exactly.
So
And,
that,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed one important word. Is that DEP or Army Corps?
Both.
Okay,
Two-
right.
Both separate agencies
Right.
have said, we want to reconsider this.
Okay.
And we don't know, Mr. Hiltz and I spoke, we don't know what that means at this point, whether he will need to redesign or do more surveying work or meet with them. He's not, you're not sure, I'm
Actually,
not sure.
the DEP, I don't know if the commissioners saw the last comments from Ms. Jacobson. It was sent at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
24, yeah,
Probably not.
25th.
Exactly.
That's
You
what I
you have
mean.
lives. So in any event, there was a comments provided by Ms. Jacobson from the DEP asking for additional surveying, which obviously can't be done in 3 hours. So
Great.
I've contacted the surveyor, who performed the survey for both properties on either side of the river there. I've also previously reached out to one of the neighbors' attorneys asking for a copy of the survey. Haven't received a response in positive from that attorney. And but in any event, I'm just, as a courtesy to these people who've come tonight, if you'd be willing to let them speak, I think it might be helpful.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
In the one letter that came from the 5 Hour River Commission dated February 23rd, they effectively rescinded their approval. Then they're asking you to go back to them on I think it's March 20-something, 24th, 26th. Are you planning on doing that? You have to tell them by March 8th.
Actually, what I need to do previous to that is get the information to DEP and Army. It may be unnecessary to go to the commission, the 5 Mile River Commission at that point, simply because it may clear up at the state and the federal level. But if necessary, I will attend that meeting.
Okay. It says you have to notify them by March 8th.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to open up and get everybody objects to the audience to see if anyone would like to speak, since they did have to sit here for another 15 minutes. I know one great advocate definitely going to want to talk. Is that all right, Jeremy?
It's up to you.
Is it clear that the members of the public who speak tonight would be able to speak again?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
fine. I think that's important to know. Thank you,
Yeah.
George.
And maybe they don't want to do
Because I
it.
think
At this point,
If there's anything that the public might say today that could tell Mr. Heights, Hiltz?
Let them have a conversation.
Yeah.
Don't need to
Can't
be
they
on
have that
record with
without
us.
George, can you elaborate why it's important, though, to allow the public to have the continuing right to comment after the timing, given their continuing timing?
Right,
I just want to
because
make sure that's
because
noted for the record.
there will be substance later that we don't have today. Okay.
Thank you.
for the
I just want to
record,
clearly note it.
Also, how much of this is ours? Like, do we have,
Jurisdiction, I don't know.
how much of this is our jurisdiction? We're not state, or like,
Right,
I
well,
think it's a setback.
that's
It's
why,
actually more of it than.
but how many
initially.
feet?
well,
More of it initially was appeared.
I think one thing Mr. Hiltz, when he circles back to these other agencies, talking about there may be some redesign. So certainly when we have the continued hearing on March 24th, the whole point, what George acknowledges, is the public will have an opportunity at that time to talk about if there's a change of design. The application might get a further continuation, or it might just be withdrawn. And there's no way to know. Mr. Hiltz still has some work to do to figure that out.
can I speak just briefly?
Yes, fine.
Wilder Gleason Law, I represent Dr. Pereira, who owns the property abutting to the north. The file has lots of emails from me. We're still working through this process because facts that I didn't know when I first got involved are coming to light. And I think as we go through the DEEP and Army Corps process, I've asked, I'm more than happy to exchange information with Mr. Hiltz, but I wanted him to give me his survey, and he wouldn't do that, so I just let the record speak, and I had already provided a survey, so he got it and then pulled something together this morning. In any event, I would like, if he's going to communicate to the other agencies, that he copies me on that, and I'd be happy to copy you on my correspondence, so we can have a meaningful and productive exchange.
Make sure
going
you
forward.
address the commission.
Yeah, and so I think that would frame the issues for you on the reconvening. And I put that in an email in response to his email this morning. But I think that would be a productive process for us to go through, because the facts are whatever the facts are, and until he does his bathymetric survey, we aren't going to know whether he complies with the Army Corps and DEP requirements and other
Right,
issues.
but anything that comes to our office is in the public record,
Right.
so you
Right.
welcome to that.
Including
I
the survey.
I can't have him, I can't require him
No,
to
you
copy
can't.
him.
I just
on
wanted to make
DEP
that
stuff.
part of the record, and we'll come back to you in due course, assuming he's able to address their concerns.
Thank you.
There's a couple of things that when we reconvene, and there's a number of things I'm interested in. First of all, we've got this 5 Mile River Commission, we got the DEP, we got the this, that, and the other thing. Whose ball is this? I mean, who has the steering oar?
It's in
on
everyone's,
all these
Army
issues?
Corps and DEP have jurisdiction, you have jurisdiction over the impacts that the proposed structure have on neighbors. So it's not just limited to mean high water and above. If your perception is that this dock and this float are going to have other issues, your regulations allow you to address those. You are not limited solely to above mean high water. And your regulations require him to provide you with certifications that we've elucidated, which have not been provided. But that's a question for him to address.
So then who knows the jurisdiction that the 5 Mile River Commission has?
Do they have any?
I think their jurisdiction is more advisory.
Yeah.
And I think
Have jurisdiction.
it is, they are in charge of navigation rights on the 5 Mile River. And it's of great concern to them. I mean, they spend a lot of time talking about moorings and where those go and dock slippage and stuff like that. And they are concerned about navigability and preserving existing riparian and littoral rights of neighbors to the Stevens property, which was the basis of the letter and the concerns that they expressed, and they don't see real issues as indicated in their letter.
The letter of the 23rd. not
Of the 23rd, when they actually walked the site, observed that the island at low tide extends far south and probably cuts off the distance. We don't know that for sure, but...
That's the doctor's island.
Yeah, the Doctor's Island,
Okay.
or he owns part of it, the southern portion.
And when do we know when the 5 Mile River, their reconvened meeting is going to be?
It's in their letter.
March
It's in the letter.
March 25th.
26th.
You have to, that's what he asked me. He has to tell them on March 8th if he's going on the 26th.
Okay.
I'm sure if he's late, they would also.
Yeah, I'm sure that accommodates.
And do we have any sense of the timing of DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers?
No.
Okay, so I mean, obviously our jurisdiction is,
We're the last ones. to-
right,
To the
the
extent,
last ones, but like we have to consider what those other bodies decide if we.
Correct. And March 24th, we might meet again on March 24th, and Mr. Hiltz might come in or send a letter and say, I'm still working with them, I need a little more time. But at least
Right.
March 24th.
But I
being-
think in terms of our public hearing obligations, we need to make sure that those decisions, which are also, some of them are public hearings, some of them are not, right? I think the 5 Mile River is opening up to the public, though they may not have public hearing obligations. Army Corps does not, I'm not sure about Connecticut DEP. But I think we should be cognizant of the decisions and our public hearing obligations to make sure that we give the public adequate notice
This year's
of
the-
those decisions and that we plan our timing of our next hearing and our decision-making in light of those other bodies.
We're gonna try for the 24th. As I spoke to Mr. Hiltz before the meeting, and he his job is to get permits and go to these agencies all the time, so he knows better than me what the time frame could be. He said it's going to be at least a few weeks. Right now, the commission can only leave a public hearing open for 35 days. We need an extension for Mr. Hiltz to go further beyond that. Mr. Hiltz, prior to the meeting, and just now, has talked about willing to grant a continuation again to March 24th. We'll see what that brings. On the 24th, or soon before, we may have to push it out further. He may have to withdraw it. We may be going ahead that night. There's no way to know until March 24th. And unfortunately, that's the best we'll be able to do for the neighbors. They can certainly check with our office, but at this point, everyone should aim for March 24th.
To answer your question, I think our next meeting with him is going to be 24th. The commission, 5 Mile River Commission meeting is 26th. So you're not going to be answering
But
that.
I think
But he
that,
has to extend and he extend. But this hearing's still open.
right, I understand that, but I think that all needs to be on the record. That
It's
we're
on the record.
considering the public's opportunity to be heard and to have all the adequate, relevant facts and all the decisions of all the other representative bodies in order for them to speak in the public hearing. They need to know those facts and those decisions. So I think all that needs to be noted in the record, that we're considering all of those things.
Yes.
If I may further on that point, particularly as to the 5 Mile River Commission, I think I heard Mr. Hiltz indicate maybe he wasn't going to go back to them. And I think he should know this member of the commission considers that group impactful. Their letter was impactful, and it'd probably be a good idea to follow up with them.
Just to clarify, I have every intention of meeting with the 5 Mile River Commission if necessary. Sometimes they review things informally amongst themselves based on correspondence with the state and the Army Corps. But if it's necessary for me to attend their meeting or any meeting, be very clear that I will do so.
Okay.
Furthermore, to touch on something that Attorney Gleason pointed out, in the correspondence between him and myself regarding surveys, there is no bathymetric survey currently existing for 14 Raymond Street. There will be one now commissioned because the state of Connecticut has requested one. It's my understanding that once I have that, I will gladly share that with the commission, with the attorney, with the understanding that in the sense of cooperation in resolving this matter, any survey that may be relevant that he can provide on behalf of his client be provided to me as well.
Happy to oblige.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
To the extent they're available.
Would anybody else like to speak to this application tonight, knowing that you could have another chance to talk on the 24th? Seeing none? Okay.
Hearing is continued to March 24th, 8 p.m. Darien Town Hall.
Then no one's going to get noticed because there is
No
no.
other notice.
But everyone know, it'll be
Thank
posted
you.
on the.
But you don't get another.
No, I know, but
green
it'll still
card,
be
man.
posted like on the wall and stuff, on the website.
Okay, moving on. Next, special permit application number 297A, Alfya Skincare, Murtazina, 463 Hoyt Street, proposal to operate a part-time limited skin healthcare consultancy, esthetician services. I guess I know the terms.
You did good.
As a home office occupation, the subject is located on the east side of White Street, approximately 2,200 feet north of its intersection with Woodway Road, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 3 as lot number 126 in the R1 half zone. As the commissioners may have deciphered, an application similar to this was put forth in 2017.
Correct.
The hearing was closed, we deliberated on, and never came to the decision.
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead, Jimmy, fill us in the rest.
Right, so what we've included in your packets is section 405, which talks about home occupations and the standards that need to be met, specific A1 through 11, with specific findings and requirements that the applicant will have to meet. So that is what you'll be looking at, section 405. And we felt that's the easiest way to have the applicant walk through this, is to talk about those various pieces. about the business, what they're proposing.
And I think just for the record, in 2017, when this application put forth, the physical structure was not completed construction. Now it's basically complete.
The house.
Can I
the
start?
extension.
Yes, you sure can.
I'm sorry, could you
You have
stand
to
by
stay
the
by the
microphone,
microphone.
please? Thank you
Or
so
my
much.
habit.
Do you see me?
Thank you, God.
Yeah, we can see you. I'm afraid you won't be seeing me. All right, I'm Alfya Murtazina, and I am, I have that skincare business. And so I am the one-person business, like I'm a solo entrepreneur. So I don't have anybody working with me, just by myself for last 10 years, and I have office in New Canaan, in the middle of New Canaan, the center of New Canaan. And I've been there for 10 years. And before that, I've been in Stanford for 15 years, doing the same thing, skincare business. And I'm esthetician, which is going to explain what it is. And before that, we moved from to Darien from Ukraine 24 years ago. That's where my accent from. And sorry about that. You have to listen that. So if you have questions, you can ask me and interrupt at any time. So, and now I'm asking for the permit to get a home business, to move my business to my house. And we have, we get an equity loan for the house, and Sergey built for me like a room there, like an extension to the house, and I have a brand new office kind of, I think I could use, and I'm asking for a permit there. And I do facials, so I'm gonna explain you what it is, because I went recently to the store and I wear like my lab coat. You have that book, right, everybody? And it's a picture, I wear like a white lab coat. And I went to to get a lunch, and the guy asking me, "What, are you a doctor?" I said, "No." "Are you a nurse?" "No." "What does it mean?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I'm a esthetician." "What is it?" "I do facials." "What is it?" So, and I start to tell, like, oh, I said, it's a nice, like, big massage, like, up to here. And he goes, and it's very relaxing. And he goes, oh, I have a cup of hot coffee and a cigarette, and I'm already relaxed. So it's a little different, that relaxing kind of. It's, I do a lot of, I have a client, I have, she is a dentist, and she said, oh, Alfya, I know what it is. Like, everybody brush their teeth at home, but they still go to the hygienist because she does it better and deeper and properly. So the same thing what I think I do. Everybody wash their faces at home, but I wash it better. And everybody doing something, using some skincare products, and I'm using it as well. And you go to CVS and you see like a million of products, and you go to a department store, it's a lot of skincare, and people could get lost there. So I'm using the skincare which they designed like at the medical spas. And that's what I use, Environ, and I learned directly from that guy who, he is a plastic surgeon who is directly designed the product. So I have classes from him, and I learned his, and I do facials with according to that vitamin products. It's a vitamin products mainly. And I have a Dr. Gross, his name is Dr. Dennis Gross, and he's dermatologist. He designed the skincare line, Dr. Dennis Gross Skincare, and he's in New York City. He's practicing there. I go to him as a dermatologist. You can go, and I know a lot of people, all my clients go to him. And I use his products, and I use his the protocol which he designed for us. And those two helped me a lot with, and they said if I move to my house, they're gonna still help me continue. And I still go to their classes as well. I have like a master classes from them. So I just, it's my, I love what I do, and I'm 63 years old, and I'm not gonna work for a long time. I don't wanna lock myself in another rent for another 10 years because that's what they want. And I feel like I can slow down a little bit. So, and that's what my just really focus on that.
Thank you. Let's get into the application.
Yeah.
Number of patients, parking.
Yes, we have plenty of parking in my driveway, 10 cars parking. I have only one person at a time for about from 90 minutes to 2 hours. One person at a time.
So I missed that. How long are your appointments?
Parking?
90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah, from 90 minutes to 2 hours, one person.
It's one person.
Yes. So, and they're probably gonna have, I don't know, 3 a day. I can't do more than that anyway. And sometimes it's less. Before the holidays could be a 3 maybe, without the holidays it's less. And that's what it is. I just wanna have less. I don't advertise anyhow, anywhere, and I never been. I have a few people like I already have them. I just wanna close my business and buy. So I wanna maybe find some good hands in a few years for my clients. But I know them for over 20 years, and I have now generations. I have a grandmother I start, and then her daughter, and now I have a grandkids. I do treatments. So the treatment means if the person have acne and they go to the dermatologist and they use their medication, they still need skincare. If the person have a lot of Botox and a lot of plastic surgeries, they still need skincare as well. They still need it. So that's what my treatment is for, is people have rosacea or eczema or something, and that's what I treat. It's more holistic, more natural way than the medication.
So the pictures in your pictures in your book in the front.
That's right. That's right.
Is that your New Canaan office?
It's New Canaan office, yes.
Okay. So you're gonna and then in the back of your book is the vacant space of what you built?
It's what Sergey built, yeah. It's just the 2 empty rooms. One is gonna be like a little reception room and another a treatment room. That's all I need.
Okay, so that's less than 10% of the total square footage, which
Yes.
is in the rule, in 405. And there's no employees other than her, which is also in 405.
Right, exactly.
So, and it's one of the uses-ish, right?
Yep.
We could say she's an artist in face.
Exactly, because I graduate art college, you're right. I graduate art college,
That's what I was
and I've been teaching art for a few years.
100%.
Yeah, so it just, the canvas is different, but it's still art, you're right.
Physician, find closer to a physician. I mean, pick a physician, that's also one thing. So we had choices, and both of them I'm okay with, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, it's less intensive a use than
That's
either.
right.
And then with regards to parking, I know we don't know. With regards to parking, you said you had 10 spaces?
Yeah, 10 cars.
Is there any diagram?
We have 2 garages, so for our
You can
cars,
see the last page
and it's a lot of
photos. It's a driveway that there's retaining walls on both sides.
Right, it's a
Then
terrible
there's
sight
areas to the left of the 2 garage bays, which is shown a little bit better in the top photo.
It is quite a large driveway, and the applicant has also maintained that only one person would be treated at any one time. And from what I understand, and speaking with the applicant prior, is that the appointments would not overlap each other.
Nice.
So it would really just be their own personal vehicles parked at the house, as well as one, in most cases, one client vehicle.
That's it.
And
Okay,
the
so-
client coming in, who's there to be the client after the current client who's being treated, potentially,
Say again? Yeah.
right?
Yes, of course. Like I always park, like even now I have, the busy place. I have like 15 to half an hour, 15 minutes to half an hour space between, because I still need to change the shades and I need to prepare different services, that's all.
Right, but you've never done it at this location, so as part of any document, what I'm hearing us say, what I would suggest is that between 2 appointments, that's a half an hour space. You said 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour.
Yes, yeah, have 15 minutes always at least or more. Yeah, because in case if somebody running late, like if I know somebody if somebody always late, I space half an hour.
So is it okay if we say half an hour?
Yes, that's
Thank
fine. Because especially if I'm home. Like I'm home already, I'm fine, I'm relaxed.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
fine.
Wouldn't you
With-
be home?
I know.
Because,
She has to be home.
right, where else would you be?
Right,
Unless she's
There's
exactly.
no place,
Yes, right.
Unless she's
so
at
you would
the
be
school.
home.
Of course, I can space an hour if I
you
need
say
it.
yes.
Look, if it's any requirement, you can tell me to
Because
do.
we
I
asked the
can
gym
do.
guy, right, on the post road, when he wanted to increase right? And it was not in a residential neighborhood, but he was bordering a residential neighborhood, and he wants to start using basement for one-on-one personal training. And we said, okay, how are you going to control in terms of parking and the increased usage? How are you going to control that there won't be more than a one-on-one? And he said, I have a computer system that will book people and that more than one client cannot be here at the time. Do anything like that to control that there will not be more people in your limited parking with the sightline issues?
I'm only the ones there. I don't think, like I have, of course I have that computer and I schedule everybody there. And
okay, so you have a computer system,
of course,
scheduling,
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, of course.
That's what we'd like to hear about. Thank you.
Okay,
I've been like all my life in this business. I know exactly how.
No, we just want to hear about that you have a computer system that will control reservations and that will control your scheduling.
That's right.
So that there can't be, you know,
no, it can be
more
overlapping. No, it's only by appointment only.
Perfect.
There is no walk-ins ever happened to me ever. So it's
That's
by
important.
appointment.
That's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
Yeah, I'm interested in your neighbors' reactions, and I see you've got some very nice letters here.
Yes.
But I don't see any that I think are from a neighbor.
No.
So have you had discussions with the neighbor? Have you gotten any pushback? I
We
don't know
have-
if there are any neighbors here now.
Yes, we have. I don't even know because one neighbor he sold the house. It was couple months ago before Christmas, and now we're new ones we never met yet. And
They got the notice, or did the notice go?
yes, we send the letters everybody. And the neighbor from the other side, they're fine. They said whatever you want. And we have a country club across the street, and we have a railroad behind, so we don't have neighbors.
What type of screening exists between your property and the neighboring property owners?
We have the fence. Right?
Tall trees for
You
both
have-
sides.
Sorry, can I have your name for my
Fence and
record,
trees.
My name is Sergey,
Yeah.
please? Spell
He's
that
my
for me.
partner.
Sergey, and last name is Stepanenko.
Yeah, we married for 40 years.
Please, just one at a time. I can't hear him if you're talking into the speaker. Thank you. S-T.
S-T, E as in Edward, P as in Peter, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, K-O, and I'm her husband.
Thank you.
Okay, now this space that exists today, what's it currently used for? Because I thought the alternative in 2017 was going to be a bedroom.
Yes, I have
What is it now?
in New Canaan, 11 Burtis Avenue.
No, what's in this space? I don't care.
What in this?
place we use like a bedroom.
Yeah, we never use it yet, but it probably gonna be a bedroom.
So it's empty.
Yeah, could be a bedroom. If you sell the house, probably it's gonna be a bedroom.
Okay. You okay, Julie?
Before we sell the house, we thought to improve it and live there.
Right.
Basically.
Basically, but it's finished. Okay. Jen? Kara, any questions at this point? Okay. Would anybody in the audience like to speak to this application? Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the commission? Okay. We'll review the application in the file and get back to you and deliver it in the next meeting. Entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Thank you.
Second? Carrie, all in favor? Thank you.
Okay, hearing's closed. So we'll decide it at an upcoming meeting.
All right, thank you.
And all the old minutes and all the old stuff is in this application, right, Jeremy?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, next item up for bid, landfilling and regrading application number 451A, Michael Gedney, 145 Old Kings Highway North. Proposal for regrade in association with construction of in-ground swimming pool, spa, and associated patio areas and for related site development activities. The 0.52 acre plus or minus acre site, subject site is located on the south side of Old Kings Highway, approximately 250 feet northwest of its intersection with Bayburn Lane, shown in Assessor's Map number 34 as Lot 23 in the R1 path zone. This is an application for a pool. It was approved by EPC.
Correct.
It's a house that's, if you guys were not out there, it's right by Parklands, off of Old Kings Highway South. Anything I'm missing, Jeremy?
Nope, the commission's here looking at the grading which is going to be occurring in the backyard and right on the side property lines. The pool is going to be right behind the house, but there is some regrading associated with the pool, and Sean Walters from Wagner Pools is going to describe the grading and the not elaborate, it's not the right word, but extensive drainage system that they're putting in to accommodate the house and the pool and the changes to the yard.
Sir.
Good evening, Casey. Thank you for your time. I'm Sean Walters, landscape architect employed by Wagner Pools. You get the gist of the project, but basically we have a residential pool project, 145 Old Kings Highway North. This was on a lot that was developed prior to current regulations. Therefore, nearly half the lot and almost the entire rear yard where the project is located is in a regulated upland review area. Consequently, despite our best efforts, we have 270 square feet of encroachment into the regulated area. To offset that, we're proposing a mitigation planting area that's 8 times the size of the area of encroachment, and we have some BMPs that have been engineered in excess of what's required by the town.
Say that again, BMP?
Best management practices, sorry. So what I mean by that is we are taking existing structures like the garage, the entire roof, 1/2 of the roof of the residence, and the entire driveway within the property line, and we are mitigating that through Full-Tech systems. Right now, all of these are being point discharged directly into the wetlands. So we're basically treating the project as though everything's being built now under modern current regulations. Just a nod to the wetlands and doing everything we possibly can. As a result, in my opinion, the post-construction footprint is going to be less disruptive to the wetlands than the current site is right now. So in order to facilitate some of these BMPs, or best management practices, we're proposing very little grading in the wetland area. By the way, this is an upland wetland area. This is dry soil. You don't have frogs and salamanders crawling around. You would not know it was a wetland, if not for the soil scientist. Further down the property, there are skunk cabbages, chokeberries, native species indicative of what we all know as a wetland. So we're proposing plus or minus 6 inches of topsoil to level out this back area, which is going to be, we have level spreaders, which are going to be used for the overflow, for the stormwater, the engineered stormwater management measures. In order for that to work well, the level spreader continues across the back of the yard. The 6 inches of topsoil, a small amount of grading is to level that surface so that the water doesn't collect in rivulets. It spreads it out, it gives it more of a chance to infiltrate and percolate before it hits the wetlands down below.
So you have 2 level spreaders, one behind the existing garage and one behind the new pool?
That's correct.
And there's a 3rd one. No, it's not a 3rd one. Okay. I'm just thinking the further one.
You're right. There's here and
got it.
So.
Guy owns a pool company. My kid, he owns a pool company. He's building his own house. How come he's not here? His picture was in the papers last week.
He's accepting an award in New York right now.
There you go.
100 years of excellence and whatnot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I coached his daughter in softball too.
I went to school next door to this property. Can I vote on this, or do I have to abstain?
Wait, what do you have? You have been.
What's the nursery school next door?
Do you own the nursery school?
What?
Do you own the nursery school?
Okay, so how much fill are we bringing in, or how much cut are we taking out of this thing?
I don't have exact calculations for that. We are removing the entire volume from the pool. The pool is 15 feet by 38 feet. It's on the small size to reduce the footprint or the encroachment into the regulated area. We are going to be repairing some of the existing stone walls on site, and some of that fill can go there. We want to keep as much on site as we can. But the grading that we're proposing here is going to be topsoil, plus or minus 6 inches of fill, just to level that out. It's already a pretty level, fairly level lot.
Sean, I think that was my question to you earlier. You said maybe it'll be a truckload just to get the right type of material in.
I think so, yeah.
I need the topsoil. Okay, let's settle this in. Karen, questions? Larry? Jen?
Okay.
George? Jim? Would anybody in the public like to speak to this application? Please come forward, state your name and address. We are mine for the record.
We waited long enough. My name is Chris Mann, and I'm a neighbor in the back side of the house. It's not mine property that abuts it, but my property abuts the wetlands right behind it. So I guess the only question I would have, I don't have any problem with anybody putting a pool in, have a great time. But just want to make sure that when he's talking about putting the drainage in, we don't add more into that wetlands. We saw properties done over on other streets in the neighborhood, and we saw a lot more flow going through our area. Right at the bottom of Bayberry Lane, there's a huge open space. I own half of it, and the neighbors own the other half. And in that space, it fills up with water. It didn't fill up with water when we moved in 30 years ago. So if somebody's done some building across the street, permitted to do it for whatever reason, and that's caused drainage problems into that area, and we now have much more flooding. So all we want to do is make sure you take a good look at the drainage that he's putting in to make sure it's just not going to dump more water into that kind of wetlands area. Otherwise, you know, we're not here to cause any trouble. We just want to make sure that it's being looked at.
No, Bayberry's further down the road from Farmview.
Exactly. You go just south
right,
on the right, and
because the guys on Farmview got blasted when they built the new assisted living place.
Yeah, that I can't believe they were too chuffed with that one, to be honest with you.
Right, I just wanted to make sure it didn't jump.
But yes, it's the other side of Fairview. So our property would hook around behind their property, and then it butts the properties off the back of Fairmead.
Gotcha.
And there's a big field back there.
Okay.
So yes, that's the main issue. So we're not here to say no or anything like that. We just want to make sure that, you know, this is being looked at, and if he says it's being drained properly, or we're going to drain even more than was being drained now, we just want to make sure the town's looking at it and make sure it is being properly drained.
We do, thank you. They're putting in a Cultec system, which is an underground, I always call them bathtubs, in the backyard. So instead of water coming down, to me it comes down the hill off of Old Kings Highway down into where the pool would be.
Right.
It gets stopped inside a Cultec system, which are the bathtubs. And then it's going to infiltrate out into the wetlands through the level spreaders.
So we'll add volume to the wetland, but through the underground, not through the overground.
It's going to go, correct. It's first goes, the water goes into, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not an actual professional engineer, you're a pool designer, right? You're a landscape architect.
Landscape architect. We have a drainage, stormwater management plan here from Rizzoli Engineering.
But it goes from the street into what I call the bathtubs. Out of the bathtubs, it dissipates out and also out in the level spreaders.
But the extra, is there extra volume anticipated?
No.
If I may?
Yeah. If you could
It's
walk
a great
up
question.
Can you go back to the microphone?
Yeah,
You
thank
can
you.
answer the question too.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate your question. I would have the same concerns, you know, with my property, we're abutting it. So what we're actually doing, all the roof leaders, half the roof leaders on the main residence, right now are being point discharged, meaning they're just discharging on the ground. So that's running over the surface and ending up in the wetlands. We're actually taking that, it's going to go into these Cultec systems. It's going to hold the water where a degree of it, because we did percolation tests, and these pits are percolating at 6 inches an hour, which is optimal. So a lot of that water is going to percolate and infiltrate below the surface, so you're never going to see it. If the system gets overloaded, it's going to go to these level spreaders in the back. But either way, and then it will be discharged that way. And then there's another Cultec system. So this is the Cultex in the front.
Yeah.
Kings Highway. So we're taking half the roof is going in here. We're taking all of the garage, and we're taking all of the driveway from the property line down. All of these are asphalt products. so we're taking all these petroleum, basically byproducts, and giving them a chance to percolate and be remediated by microbial activity in the soil. I'm not an engineer. I understand a little bit about it because I work with them. This post-construction footprint, I guarantee you, is going to be less detrimental and net less water into the wetlands than what is currently being discharged on the existing site. And I think the main source, by the way, there's a huge culvert here that's coming down, and that's where you have your skunk cabbages and
Well, it's all
so
back
on and so
here,
forth.
in this whole area back here.
Yes, and it's always, as you know, this area back here is actually wet. This is where you have your skunk cabbages. And so this is all mitigation plantings. That's going to be Clefra alnifolia, beautiful white flowers in the spring. You've got, there.
Okay.
No, we're good, we're good. We
No,
trust you.
is resident, are you good?
You know, if you guys believe that what's being engineered is not gonna increase volume into that wetland substantially, then we're good.
What it's doing, what he's talking about is the water that like hits the roof and whatnot, instead
Yeah, no,
of
I
going to
get that.
wetlands unabated,
Yeah.
it's gonna get the Caltex.
And these are all these plants like wet feet in the back here. So some water is going to get down there, and there's an extra added measure, you know.
Okay.
And
You
the
okay?
Public Works Department
I
engineer
want to go
looked
over
at
that
this.
for a second. I want to go over that for a second.
Sir, I didn't get
Oh,
it. What address is he?
Okay, so I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Miss with the white hair, would you like to introduce yourself?
First speaker, can you give address for the...
Donna Rajeski, Bayberry Lane, and I am a budding neighbor. Actually, I own this part back there, and then just to about here, I think there's a post there. There should be a stake still there, as there was last time.
We didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, the only concern I have is right now there is standing water back there after, you know, a rainstorm for a few days. But with it, and you're gonna fix my stone wall? Because it's a.
It's over the lot line, I can't.
No, it's the lot line, and anyway, leaves have been blown over there, and so have, you know, into my yard. But anyway, no, I don't have an objection to the pool. Just wanted to make sure, as Chris has said, we're concerned about extra drainage and you know, not being too high and everything. Because as I said, there is standing water, but you're putting new plantings along there that should take care of that too.
And the mitigation, you know, measures up here. Really, it's actually gonna. We went overboard. The engineer was wondering why we were going through all this.
Because you're nice.
That's because Mike Gedney owns the company.
We appreciate it, believe me.
It should be.
Thank you.
You okay, Don?
Mr.
Yes, Mr. Raymond.
It's probably for Jeremy, but let me, neither the EPC letter nor Darren's email says declaratively or definitively that this is going to make things better. I'm not suggesting it's not, but so I'm looking at the recommendation. I should include an as-built, blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
When you get the as-built, somebody's gonna look at it.
Right.
And make sure that it conforms to.
Absolutely correct. If the commission were to approve this with that condition, what we would do is require an as-built survey and a certification from their engineer that when the drainage is being put in, it is being put in consistent with this plan. The Caltex are at the right elevation, the pipes are pointed the right way, and we see those on.
We get 90% of the time now.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean,
right, the burden would be on them to confirm for us that everything was done properly.
okay, I just wanted to try to give the neighbors some comfort that at the end of the day, it's not gonna be worse and hopefully it's gonna be better.
Yeah, better.
You have to come to the podium, sir, I'm sorry.
I don't think we need better, we just need to make sure it's not getting any worse.
Sure.
Okay.
Understood.
It is what it is now.
Understood. Thank you. Would anybody in the audience like to speak to else like to speak up?
I'll have a go.
Okay, sir, as part of our approval, our 10 engineers is recommending an as-built survey. Is that okay by you?
Yes.
Thank you. And then the only other question we have is the rock walls. I see the one that's getting taken away in the middle of the pool. Are there any?
Yes,
Are there any new rock walls getting built
There are.
along the property lines or in the middle of the property lines? No one just get some of this. Almost sure about 4 feet high.
So, this dashed line down here, this would be drawing 2 on LA2, represents the existing wall that's coming out. And this is the wall I was talking about. The current roof leaders are being point discharged through. There's 4-inch PVC pipe that you can see. The wall is basically the wetlands boundary. So that comes out.
Where's that on this? Where's that on this one?
It's on the group.
Oh, you won't see it on Rizzoli's.
On the
LA2 on Wagner's.
Sean, on the colored plan, the walls are in red, the new walls to be constructed. So the drainage is in purple, the new walls are in red, and they're gonna take away some of the existing wall, right in the middle, back of the property, to put the pool in. So this is sheet C 1.0. New walls are in red.
That's the pool, right? That's in here.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and none of these walls are higher than 4 feet.
So there's one wall, I'm going to reference this drawing again over here. So this is LA2 on Wagner set. This is an existing wall here that's failing. It's in pretty bad shape. It looks like it was put together piecemeal. So we're proposing to replace that. No grade changes or elevational changes. But also, this is a fairly steep area over here with a lot of runoff. So in order to enhance the stormwater management measures that we're putting in place, adding a second retaining wall here is actually going to reduce the slope a little bit, slow the water down, give it a chance to percolate through a filtration system behind the wall. And of course, this wall, when we rebuild it, is also going to have drainage behind it. And then there's another, sort of a dry well underneath the pool patio here.
So I trust that's going to be a engineered wall.
It's under 3 feet. We were informed by the town, as long as we kept it under 3 feet, we'd be okay.
That's my problem.
Yeah, we'll have to check with the building official on what structural certifications he needs.
Because it's holding back dirt and it's the drainage systems behind it.
Yeah, we'll check with Pete. Usually he asks for something, but we'll leave it up to him.
Okay. It's the building, the point is that the building official may require that to be an engineered wall.
It is an engineered wall.
Even though it's below.
Isn't it a cast engineered wall? Is that not what we put here?
Cast engineered.
Oh, cast engineered, that's a wall.
I get the light wall, but
that's a wall light, so that's just.
Isn't this an engineered wall behind it? No? Am I just putting two things together?
So this is just a cut sheet for the lighting manufacturer, which is called cast, and that would go underneath the wall cap. So the wall itself is not engineered the way that you're talking.
Okay.
It's a field storm retaining wall. It has a foundation. Obviously, it goes down 42 inches.
Engineered wall light.
Compliant in that manner.
Engineered wall light.
Yes.
Engineered wall light.
I'm assuming you're thinking like the Teco block sort of thing,
Yeah.
with the geotextile fabrics and all that. No, that's not what.
So that's going to be open-ended for you. You can't control it. You can't control it, but he can.
Right, the building official will make a determination. But it could be that when he comes in for the building permit for the pool, that Peter requires certain certifications on the walls as well.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Tonight.
Oh, you know what? I apologize. It wasn't the town. I spoke to Rizzoli, who was more familiar with working in Gedney, and he said, "Don't make those walls over 3 feet." So that's where I got that from.
No, that's
So we'll check with the building official. It's really
It's a neat call.
Oh,
Okay.
patting the mouse around.
That's okay. We good? We good.
Good.
Entertain a motion to close? Looking for a second? Larry?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Moving right along. The next thing we have on our draft is deliberation of any closed public hearings matters tonight. I would suggest we do not. Okay, so there's no time permitted.
Okay.
And then the last thing would be approval of minutes dated of February 11th. I'm sure everybody studied the minutes.
I did.
I'll move their approval.
George,
You started in 2 hours.
never happened. Personally, that's like a type.
I had to prove I'm here tonight.
I know.
I second your approval.
All right.
Did you motion?
I'll take a motion to approve. We got a
Second.
motion from George. We
All
got
in
a
favor?
second from Jen. All those in favor?
Yeah.
As written. Next item on the agenda, calendar update. March 3rd meeting's canceled. With nothing going on. March 10th, executive session at the beginning, probably talking about lawsuits from our in-house counsel. After that, we have a public, outside counsel. You're our in-house counsel. We have a public hearing and a general meeting.
One very short public hearing, so.
On the 24th?
Short? 24th will be, no, it's very short.
March 17th, there's no meeting?
March 17th, no meeting, and then the meeting after that is March 24th.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Public hearing, I think we got 5.
You need to say it at this one.
Yeah, 5 or 6
And
public
then the
hearings.
continuation of this one.
5 are supposed to be very short.
They're going to be short. We've looked at them. They're short.
You still got the doc.
I'm traveling that day, actually.
The 24th. No, they're the 24th.
Yeah, the 24th.
So you're gonna miss the doc.
17th as well.
Yeah, and the 17th was.
Any other business regarding 2/3 vote? Any other business? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Kara, looking for a second. Man of reason, George.
Great.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Bye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.